Welcome, everyone. This is a room full of friends. I'm Tom Brister.
I'm Jackie Blaylock.
And I'm Tanashi.
Yeah, I'm DJ. I'm still here. Gonna be talking.
Dallas.
We're back for another session. So we want to welcome our guest, Jackie. And Jackie, you want to kick it off with maybe a little bit of your background and what you're thinking about today?
A little bit of my background for where I come from or who I am, what I'm
take us where
interested
you want to
in.
go.
I'm an overall believer of working light, being a light and shining light on places or those who may be in the shadows. People having more awareness of their emotions and self-reflection within themselves. Overall, I just really inspire to not only continue to be a better version of myself, but expressing myself enough to where that can motivate others.
Right on. Do you, when you say expressing yourself, can you maybe talk a little bit about those expressions?
Yeah, just my truth, where I've come this far in this life, in this journey, things that may have affected me, obstacles and challenges that I may have overcome, and me having the awareness of how I dealt with it, and maybe seeing others going through the same thing, and just expressing to others that, hey, you're not alone. Many of us go through many of things, and it's silence out of doubt or fear of acceptance or an understanding. So I just will be that vulnerable individual and express myself, no matter the cost or how others may take it.
That is beautiful and courageous too. I think that's something I spend a lot of time thinking about. We were in South by Southwest this week, and I was having a bit of a coming out as a warlock,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, but at the core of that, what I felt was that same vulnerability that I heard you speaking of. I had to share this part of myself with everyone proudly, for myself, for my own restructuring of myself, or the growth of myself. But at its core was that sense of vulnerability, that here I am, and this is what I am.
Not everyone will have an understanding or acceptance of your journey, but as long as you don't allow that to hold you back from expressing yourself and being open to yourself, don't allow others' closed-mindedness defer you away from your true, authentic self of expression.
What about the people who are on this journey and they have family around, but family sees this, oh, you need to be on medication, something is wrong with you. Because there are people who wake up because the way they wake up, they start going through these diet changes where they eat and their stomach doesn't accept certain things they've been eating all their life. And that's how some people are waking up. Some people waking up just from having eating disorders, and then they end up being on medication, and then it's a thing where your family is not in support of what you're going through because it's closed-mindedness or it's fear or it's not knowing what creates that separation.
I feel it's like a view of a quick fix. So it's a mass acceptance that medication it doesn't really cure the issue, just kind of puts a cap on it from it keeps it from overflowing. It misses it enough for it not to overflow and affect them. I'm dealing with that firsthand, not from me, but from my brother and my mother. He suffers from learning how to cultivate his anger or his expression or his emotions because he may have dealt with trauma in his childhood, and we both have. And so many people just feel that medication will be the cure, and they don't think to sit down and ask what causes this, what triggers this, where does this come from, and how we were speaking about earlier, just to be open to communicate. I just feel like it's the easy way out, and at the end of the day, they're not knowing whether it will make the situation better or worse. But in some cases it helps others deal with it, or in a dose, so to speak, so it isn't too strong. And then other cases, it may numb them and completely place the core of the situation dormant, and it just kind of builds up over time. And then who's to say once they stop taking the medication, all of that won't, boil back up and overflow, and then it just creates this big cyclone of a bomb of unexpressed emotions. So I think despite what's really going on, I feel people should be open to dealing with a situation they may not be comfortable with. I don't think there's any growth inside of comfort. And it's just, sometimes it's really selfish. Like I say, it's a little quick fix, and then they may not want to deal with it, get to the bottom of it, because it takes work. It's a process. It's not overnight. So I think kind of like involves all of that.
Yes, the just reveling in internally when I was listening to you about so much of what you said is so consistent with the language of psychology and neurobiology, right? Where you speak of my language is a little more clinical. I find I enjoy, and it's important to have the precision of the clinical language of psychology, because we want to put the right emphasis on it, right? Emotional trauma, you can have your emotional back broken into small pieces, right? And so when people suffer these emotional breaks, the breaking of their emotional bones, it has to be healed. It takes time and is very painful. And the way the body protects you so you can continue to function while that break is healing is you go into a defended state, and it suppresses the pain so that you can continue to function. Just like if you were to break your leg and a saber-toothed tiger was chasing you, you would have enough adrenaline that you could still run on that leg to survive, right? But in our current society, what we see, what is disturbing to me, is that the society is set up with a set of stress machines that continue to run, that very few people can take time to stop running on the broken emotional leg, right? And so to your point, I agree with everything you said, and I see a disturbing trend in our society that the machines of the society make us so that we can never get off the treadmill. We can never rest the leg, and so the leg can never heal, and so the leg festers and it becomes worse and worse and worse. And what so many people need, and what I am so appreciative in my own past, is that I was able to I've been in essentially no work recovery for almost 3 years, and I've needed every minute of that to recover for my own emotional health. And so many people cannot do this, right? They're in prison, or they are starving to death, or they are running for their lives, or they are trying to feed their children, or they're
caught up in the
yes, right, and working 12 hours a day. And so who can go and rest for 4 months?
Yeah, they don't
with
have
no
the luxury
state
to do
support
that.
or state services or community services. But this is exactly what the psychology and the neurobiology said, right? I followed the recipe, right? I read all the psychology and I read all the therapy, and this is pretty much what you see over and over again. People need to be able to remove themselves from these stressors, so that they can heal and have these introspective moments that you speak of. So this is kind of what drives my political perspective in the world, is the need for making mental health the number one topic in the United States, right? And it troubles me that in mainstream media, this is not talked about.
No.
At all.
But
but then it's an excuse for, instead of looking at guns, that is one party who says we should look at this first. But we notice that they control both the House and the Senate and the presidency, that they could pass a mental health bill with no support from anyone, right? And they do nothing. They do not act on this thing that would give them political relief, right? Because if they did act on it, then they would relieve the pressure about talking about gun control, right? That would probably really work if they really acted on that. So then we have to ask ourselves the question, why do they not act
because
on this?
they have been given prescription for medication that people are getting hooked to so easy. Small cities. So the spiritual awakening that's going over here where we are different than someone who's in the East Coast where everybody's overdosing on heroin. You're constantly seeing someone overdosed on Facebook. You're constantly seeing, oh, somebody got hooked, someone got relapsed. So it's the cycle of like you go to bigger cities and you start asking yourself, is the drugs more pure, or is are they just controlling what happened in certain environments? Because I feel like they make money by selling people this stuff that goes into addiction because they can control it. You
Mhm.
get caught up with that, you go to drug court, you go to halfway house, they are managing your process. Whereas with the spiritual waking up journey, it's a lonely journey because some people need medication to balance it, some people don't need medication.
Mhm.
Some people it's self discipline. So I feel like they are aware, but they know once people become more conscious and aware of what we are supposed to do and what we are capable of, people are gonna walk away from medication, and that changes things because it's a part of how we are kept under control.
Well, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. They're not just whether it helps us or not. They're benefiting tremendously from it. So
Yeah,
whether
they just raised this bunch of
yeah,
for like what $12,000.
hmm they're just gaining more from it. Whether they know if what's truly needed is the highlight upon emotional intelligence. A lot of people lack emotional intelligence, not only of themselves but others. And some people, the scores of emotional intelligence is so low, they even neglect their own emotions. So I just think we should bring more awareness to have the intelligence and be open enough to not only have awareness of our own, but and respect others as well.
So what do you say to the college kid who's in college now and he feels like I need to get out, I don't need to do this. I wanna do something different, and because I feel like that's also another path where people are waking up through like they're in college and they realize they're in school not for themselves, for their parents. They're doing something that they don't want to do. They're doing it out of duty. So
Well,
like,
Because I gotta make
yes,
money.
but remember
So
one of the most important things we understand about our limbic system is that we pass um, we pass down our trauma to our children, right? Child abuse rates stand at 95%. That means if your parent was abused emotionally or neglected or physically or sexually, 19 out of 20 of those parents will do that to their child, right? And so there are viruses that wish they had this sort of contagion rate, right? Just think of, if you think of this as a transmission between a parent and a child, like a parent can pass herpes to their child, right? And this is why sometimes women get C-sections so that if they have the disease, they can skip because the child does not pass through the infected vaginal area where the disease lives, right? So they're able to skip this. If we look at child abuse this way and we think about it as a disease that's being transmitted through the raising of the child, right? And this behavior is transferred. This is the way, and then we think about all that being stored in our limbic system, our threat response system. What we see is this is what the matrix really is, right? The matrix is inside of our stress response system. When our stress response system goes off, it tells us we have to live in this pre-made world that other people have decided for us, whether it's our parents or our or a combination of that. We realize that it's not a computer system we need to be afraid of, but it's this system back here we need to master, the stress response system, because that's what frees us from this matrix. Is we build up our tolerance for stress. We understand where it comes from and where it originates from, and this is what frees us from the matrix that the Wachowski system is talking about, I believe.
so. So, what do you think? 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 What do you in your journey, Jackie, remember when we talked about you wanting to travel
Mm-hmm.
and you wanting to blog and be influence people and be a flight attendant,
Mm-hmm.
and you are there now.
Mm-hmm.
Some people they see you like, oh, you've reached your peak. Where do you go from here? Like, where are you in your journey? What's the next step? How do you help the next person get to where you got? What was your process? What did you have to do to get to be able to manifest what you have manifested for yourself? Was it prayer? Was it meditation, yoga? Was it visualization? What was it for you? And how did you deal with the criticism of people who not understanding where you were trying to go?
Well, it's more so of walking to the beat of my own drum and listening to and giving attention to my desires, my needs, and my wants. And at the bottom of it all, like, I feel others are completely turned off from what they're truly desirable of because it may not bring the income they desire. So they're more focused on a job that will bring a certain income. And then, say, for instance, they achieve that and they get, the abundance or money that they had initially desired to want, but then there's still a sense of non-belonging. There's a sense of a void, and they're not understanding because in these days and times we're projected, hey, you have money, you have it all. And I feel I healed myself from the inside out, and I gained clarity of what direction I wanted to go in. I knew I wanted to focus on health. I knew I wanted to travel. I knew I wanted to speak and influence others to do the same, and not in the sense of what I'm doing, but despite money, not even putting money in the equation, like, what awakens your soul? Like, what is it you do and money not being involved that just uplifts you without any outside source or substance? Whether it may be speaking to someone or open up to someone or working out or doing yoga or writing or, just, is it digital? Like, what is it? What's your niche? And I just kind of followed that. I stuck with it and I was consistent. I was dedicated. I was fueled.
Did you ever get in a point where you got stuck?
Oh yeah, that's a natural thing to do.
How do you get out of that?
It's a natural process. Just being able to have awareness that you feel that you are stuck, but knowing just the next step you have to execute. You have to be really cautious about the next step and not act out emotionally. Because most times when we do begin the journey of what we truly desire, we're going to hit a lot of brick walls. It doesn't come to us delivered in a perfect package. We can get like a puzzle piece and it's missing like 5 or 6 pieces, and you're having to put in the footwork and dedication and consistency to go and look and discover and obtain the other pieces and be willing and dedicated enough to and persistent to do so. So it's a matter of how bad do you want it? And an even better question is why? Why do you want it? Is it because of money? Is it because is it an egotistical thing, or is it like what is it? Is it why do you want it? And I have to ask myself that.
Well, and to take it a little lower frequency, as someone who achieved my own success in those levels and had that exact insight where I realized that, another house with another room or a blingier car was not, this trend was not going to solve what was missing inside of me. And I've come through my own journey to accept, back to my broken emotional leg metaphor, right? That sometimes you can know it's your first is to be aware you have a broken emotional leg, and you say, oh, I see what this is. This is trauma from being poor when I was a kid and searching for money as a form of security, right? If I scoop enough money up, and I have enough assets, then I am convincing myself that I will never return to this traumatic, invisible state that I lived in when I was a little kid, right? But then we realize that's a delusion, because then you scrape all that money up and that feeling doesn't go away.
Exactly.
And so what do? You scrape more, and you just keep doing it. And this is to me the basis of greed. It is fear. It is fear of loss of control of your life, of not being able to be invisible in society and in your culture, because many of our indigent and impoverished people, they are invisible to a large portion of our society.
Yeah, it's no one really listens, and not everyone truly genuinely cares, because it's more so, I can help you, but how does it benefit me? So
A transaction.
Yeah, so it's more of a business ordeal than like a fellowship. Like, I have something that I am more than able to give and offer, but because I have a sense of greed, I'm wanting something back in return.
And this is why your light work is so important, right? Because workers like you who raise the frequency of this conversation and take us to that place back of, this is community, this is us being connected as humans. And this thing that connects all of us, Mother Earth, right? Compassionate being, is important to balance out this conversation, because I take it to a lower frequency, because I know you'll bring it back up to a good medium. But this brings up another conversation I've been wanting to have with a self-declared light worker, because I've been listening to a lot of light workers on YouTube and podcasts, and my experience with this is that since I was born in the darkness, so to speak, when I say that, I mean this, I did not receive good enough parenting as a child, right? So I did not know love as a child, or attachment, or the biological responses that you're supposed to get. And so the sense I have as I recover is I'm having these experiences for the first time as an adult, and it's beautiful, it's amazing. But I very much still identify with that lack of compassion, that sense of self-annihilation, the internal critic, right? The one who's always hard on yourself, inside of yourself.
That's the book I'm reading right now, The Power of Self-Positive Talk.
Yeah.
Not beating up yourself to the point where you're inflicting the very thing you're wanting others not to do. But you're doing, and most times, a lot of times, and that is the most true statement I've heard. Like, we are our worst enemy, because we're inflicting all of this unnecessary pain upon ourselves.
Right.
It's like, it's okay that we make mistakes. It's okay that we may have doubt. It's okay that we may have fear. The thing that it's not okay with, if you're allowing that to keep you dormant and stagnant, you have to walk through that. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadows of death, I shall fear no evil, for thy art with me. For whoever thy is for you, whether it be yourself or a source energy, or whomever you identify as your creator or anything in that realm, you have to walk through that. It's not going to be the yellow brick road with a rainbow over your head. It's going to probably be the exact opposite, and you may happen to be the light in the darkness, which oftentimes I am that light in the darkness. It doesn't benefit me being around light, like really nothing been done. Either it may be you bouncing off your journey upon me and what you've learned, but at the end of the day, what can really be done amongst light workers, like and commute with one another? Sometimes you may have to go dark places to be able to shine your light and bring those people out.
That's exactly the point I wanted to get to, was this idea that I feel it is useful at times to go into this low frequency place conceptually or emotionally, right? Because you see someone in there, right? And you have to be very careful to
not let yourself get so
spend
sucked
in
up
there, right?
because it rubs off. You have to be willing to know.
You have to be strong,
yes,
pure, or clear internally, right? This is why we
and a
take
sense
care
of direction
ourselves.
and when knowing
Purpose.
knowing
yes.
when your time is done, you know. And I always say to people in places that that my energy or presence, when I'm in someone's time, space, and reality, I say, hey, I'm here for a short time. Take what you can, because I'm willing to give it, because I'm overflowing
That's
with
beautiful.
it. You know, I'm going to be replenished regardless, because I'm willing to give. So the universe is going to be willing to provide me with what I put out. So for those who are constantly holding on to something, you'll never gain what it is you truly want. It's just how life works. I give you something, you give me something, and it didn't have to be like a selfish thing. It's just, hey, I may be giving you some truth of word, and you may bounce back and you may ask me just a simple question. It brings so much clarity to me. It opens up so many passages in my mind. You know, it didn't always have to be egotistical. Like, you know, it's not
Alone.
like, yeah.
So-
That's when we're egotistical. We're trapped in alone.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question while you're on that? Because that's why I'm struggling right now. I am scared to dive into the dark, because what I'm really scared is of myself, you know, because I have a dark past. I've done some really fucked up shit to people. I can be very mean when I'm in the dark. So when I know I have to revisit the dark, it's like I'm taking off this image, this thing that I've built that has been working from being like,
No, you feel you lack control.
yeah,
Feel that you lack control. You feel like once it's introduced to you again, that you'll be sucked in by it. But since you have the awareness that, and the fear of that, you have to be able to cultivate what you've learned as you have risen up. Once you go back to the lower realm, and you have to be able to be willing to intercept that and accept that, and knowing that, hey, that was once me. It's a past version of myself that no longer exists, but it's still within me. Like, it still is. It may not be like in the present moment, even though if you go back and revisit it, time travel within yourself, it can come back. But knowing that you're in a better place right now, knowing that you have control, and if you feel that you don't have control, you may relapse and go back into that limbo. It's a matter of perception.
so like for me, I've always been by myself. So the idea of having support makes me very uncomfortable, because I've always stayed in survival mode. So to be in a space where I'm not in survival mode, I feel useless, because I'm always the one who's trying to figure a way out. And to be in a place where I can figure a way out and just be, I feel like I'm just waking up and I'm just going to sleep. And I'm becoming clear in the head, but as far as value to myself, I'm like, yo, am I even making any progress? Because I used to, everything I used to do, I used to calculate how much money I'm making, where I'm going, how much moves I'm making, what new ideas do I have, how many projects have I done. So now I'm in a space where, like, wow,
You don't want to
I
get
mean-
caught up in the rat race.
I'm at peace, right?
Mhm.
And the idea of being at peace, I know with my family, everybody's doing the red race. So when I speak to everybody, I'm the crazy one, because I'm out that red race anymore. So how do you find the balance of bringing this light not only to your friends and strangers, but to your family? Because I feel like this is how you break the curse of a generation.
Whether someone takes heed to what I have to say or not, I always stay true to myself, and knowing whether one person accepts it or no one accepts it, I know my truth. And I will continuously follow that, because it is what sparks my spirit. It is what awakens my spirit. Just because, like, say, for instance, if, say, we're speaking now and we do this podcast for a year or two and no one tunes in, but it's what sparks our soul. It's what makes us thrive, you know? So why stop doing that very thing because you're not getting gratification or attention from others? And that's where I feel that, you know, where a lot of people are at. I'm not accepted by many. Like, a lot of people may look up to me and I may be a motivation to others, but at the end of the day, I spend most of my time to myself and my loved one. I don't spend a lot of time to my family. My family will sit and be on social media and see the perception of my success or what they embody as success, but it's really just me following my desire.
And how do you deal with that? Do you get the experience of people project you and put you at this peak level, and you know you're still on your journey, but when you go to people, what they see in you is different than what you see. That's what confused me sometimes.
I'm just simply following my passions. How other people take that or not, whether they feel I'm at a different, or I'm breaking a success bracket. It's that's why I'm here. You can never like I'm not here to try to speak something to someone and say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. I am an example by my life's work, by the path I choose to walk. And my path is not of the masses. It's like the total opposite. It's like out of the norm. It's not really viewed as, not saying it's not accepted, because many people do look up to me, but they still lack action because they doubt themselves. They have the fear of failure, just like a child. A child has two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of neglect. So, and that's kind of how we are, but we've been taught so many things to fear. Know this, know that, don't do this, don't do that. We kind of are living the reality of so many people. It's like a collective conscience, and not in a good way. It's not an open collective conscience. It's more so of an embodiment of restriction of hey, this could possibly happen. Don't do that.
Well, one thing I have come to see in myself, and well, I'll just leave it there. One thing I see in myself is that I can directly map my relationship with my mother and my father to how I think about Mother Earth and Father as sort of the structure of my life and my purpose, and how I move forward in life. So I think, Nashe, that I've said this before, I say it again, it is paramount that you explore not only the logical aspect of what has happened, the dynamics you talk about. There is a set of powerful feelings that are associated. You need to make sure you are tapped into them. I do not assume that from people because I was not tapped into that for most of my waking life. So I do not make the assumption that when I am talking to someone that they have done this emotional work, and there's no way around it. The way is through, and it is through those emotions. It is to feel them. It is to sit with them. And some of them will be so powerful that the story I like to tell here is that when I first started turning my emotions back on, they were so painful that I would have bouts of narcolepsy. I would do this practice of trying to sit with my emotions for 10 minutes, and I would fall asleep for an hour. I would wake back up because 10 minutes of sitting with that emotion would make me pass out for an hour's worth of sleep. But I slowly started to grow, and I was able to start to control this, and it went from intense pain to separate emotions that I could start to feel.
So my question is the empathy, right? How do I find balance in stopping to fix? Because I feel like I'm productive when I'm helping or taking other people's problem and making them my problem. Makes me feel better than dealing with mine. How do you get to a point where you deal with yours and you analyze yourself and you strip yourself down and you look at yourself? Because to me, that's why I'm at where, like, with myself, that's the blockage of, like, I can fix people, but to fix me, what do I need to do?
No one can answer this for you tonight, right? It's some people it's yoga, some people it's psychology, some people it's witchcraft, right? Some of us, it's all of those things, right? It's because we like a balance, right? I too don't like to overdo one tool before I'm moving on to something else, because I'm also learning something new. But I almost guarantee you it involves tears, is my point. If there are no tears, this is a problem, right? And I hear this over and over again in society. people who just say this. They just say, "Yes, I can't cry," and and then inside I am like, "You must be able to cry. To not be able to cry is to be the emotionally dead, right? So you've got to find your tears, and you got to soften your heart." And so I used to do exercises where it was about scrubbing myself in the bath, right? Love, self-care, get in touch with your body, right? This is why the witchcraft stuff is so nice, because it talks about, focuses on self-care, taking care of your home, taking care of your friends, taking care of your people. Learn the practice of love, first for yourself, and then for your people and your things.
Yeah, you're having to bring value to yourself. That's the only way you're able to bring value to someone else. So if you have a cup and you say it's filled with a certain amount of value that you've taken from yourself and placed it there, but yet you're letting others drink from it, it's eventually going to run empty, and you're no longer going to be able to pull out any more value from yourself. So at that moment in time, you're going to have to respectfully tell others, hey,
No.
I hear you, I feel you, and sometimes in this journey, like you said, we may have to walk alone. No one person can give you all the answers. They can give you a sense of direction based off of your own values, but at the end of the day, you really have to fill up. No one can feel you in the way that you're able to feel yourself. And I went down that road where I kept having these high expectations for others, like, hey, you're supposed to do this for me. And if you do this for me, this is going to make me feel this way. So if you're not doing that, I'm going to go find someone else who can do it for me. And then your expectation is just depleted because no one can really, truly live up to your own expectations, because they're having to still bring value to themselves. You're going to have to follow their own process in the way they know best, and don't beat yourself up for you may not handle a situation in a way that someone else may desire you to, because you can only meet them from where you were met at, and you can only go as deep as where you've met yourself with someone else. So if you have yet to travel the depths within yourself, no one else can really expect you to travel that place with them.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I feel like the reason why I've always tried to stay in my light side is because I put my Christian doctrine. As much as I'm spiritual, I think I'm religious in a way because I create these boundaries for myself. I'm like, oh, you know better than that. But maybe that's why I need to go find the main answers. I'm just scared of like, what if I like the darkness?
It's a part of us.
For you,
you know,
you have
the darkness isn't all bad, right?
No.
The darkness to me represents the cold structure of planning too, right? The way we stand up for ourselves and the way we drive ourselves to be more and to evolve, right? That there's valuable things on the non-compassionate kind of non-Mother Earth side, light worker, right? You just have to really balance how much you use those tools, right? That there has to be this mix. We're just being and we're just connected and we just feel it and we're just in our flow. And nobody's talking because nobody needs to fucking talk about this.
You can't overfeed it. Like whatever side you're giving into most is who's gonna come out on top. So you have to have a balance between both, knowing that you both exist within you, and there's good within the bad and bad within the good. It's just you must awaken to that and respect that.
Is it balance or is discipline? Because I feel like
It's a little bit of both.
You being vegan and yogi, it's kind of a cheat code compared to someone like me. I have that addictive personality, you know what I'm saying? I could go to yoga and be like, oh, I like this. And I'll go try something else and I like it. But you have the discipline because you allow certain things in your body, not allow certain things in my body. With me, like, if I feel like doing something, I'm just going to go do it. So sometimes that's why I get stuck in this.
You're impulsive.
And again, this is me a fifth dimensional. Like, just go cry some tears and this will clear itself up. Because you will have all of these insights as you
Tears is
those
real. I feel
layers of
it's like
grief.
it's relieving negative energy,
Yes,
built up, blocked
clears
energy.
you.
So once you release it, you'll be more open. You'll be more receptive. But if you keep in the moments where you feel emotion and it's really, really strong, and then you're like, no, I can't.
Right.
I gotta be a man, or your pride and ego gets in the way.
Right. Think about, can you explain the set of nuanced emotions and the core of where the fear is, right? This is one, if you want to keep it in the psychological and sort of the fourth dimensional creative imagination space, then think of it, then ask yourself the question of, could I write a page about the emotional content of this? Not the actions of the people or the task, but about my feelings and what they feel like, whether it's a metaphor for those feelings or write directly about them.
Okay. So, on your journey, you're traveling, right? And you're working the job that you always wanted. And your spiritual journey. How is your spiritual journey and your career? How is they aligning? Are they aligning together?
They
What
feed one
experiences
another.
are you having?
They feed one another because, as you know, I love to engage with others either to learn or spread light. And me also wanting to travel and see new places, this job it feeds that for me. So not only am I able to experience different things on the daily and be in different places all the time. I'm never in one same place all the time. Like every day is like a new day for me. But it also allows me to be in the midst of others and they being able to see the light within me. And then if I'm gifted enough to be able to reach someone, or someone may see, hey, you're a very beautiful young lady. You're very professional. It's just something about you. Whether I had to speak or not, I still reached someone. So someone saw something in me. They seen my light work. So it corresponds.
Okay. And if there's anybody out there who is listening, what message do you have for them? Anybody out there who's at a phase where they feel like stuck, it's time to get out? What words can you tell? Just tell them what you need to tell them so they can come in. We need more light workers. What do you say to the next person who's there who discovered they're trapped in something? Any words of advice to anybody who might be listening?
3 words: follow your truth. Simple as that. That sums it up.
Mine is cry your tears. And at the end of the day, they're only tears, and you clean them up and you go on about your day.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Jackie, for coming. Thank you,
for having
Tom. Oh, thank you for sharing. Thank you, Dollars. Thank you, DJ. And this was a room full of friends, episode 3, but it's about to be episode 2. So episode 3 is not episode 2. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to call this one Follow Your Truth, and like I always close, thank you, God, for allowing us to be here and help us so we don't lead to our understanding. Amen.
Yeah.